For activity 2 of this module, I was looking online. We don't have a lot of resources readily available here in Paraguay, so I found this scribbling machine that looked like basic household items. But one thing you need in it is some type of motor. So what I've done is, I remember my son had this inventions kit, and in it there's a way to build a motor. So I'm gonna try to build this motor. But one of my questions is, and hopefully someone can answer it, is if I'm following this, doing it step by step, am I still making, or should I be using my own ideas? Okay, so step 1 is to take a wire like this. It's called a magnet wire, and put it in a coil. So I did that by moving it around this mark. Steps 3 and 4 were to wrap the wire around the coil. So squeeze it together and wrap it around like this. Next step was to sand the top of the leads, so you can see there's no more red on them. I'm not sure if I did it right, but I think there's something, I don't know what's going on with it, but it says here make sure that sanding is important and that it should be shiny. So if something's wrong, we can go back to this step again, I'm guessing, but let's find out. Okay, so these steps are going to be interesting. It tells me to find 2 paper clips and spread them out like this. And then the next step is connect the motor together like this. So at this point, I'm gonna try to gather all the supplies and possibly make this and see if it works. I don't know, I'll let you know in a minute. Okay, so I'm not sure, but I think it's working a little bit. You can see it's going back and forth. Maybe the battery's not strong enough. Maybe it's just the magnet. I'm gonna see if I can get a new battery and see if it goes stronger. Okay, so there's a new battery, and you can see it's moving very slowly back and forth, but something's not right. So I'm gonna look at the troubleshooting and see what it could be. I think maybe, my guess is the coil is not on the paper clips well enough to spin easily, but I'll check. Okay, so it's going a little bit faster now. Oh, now it's slowing down. But I changed the way the coils were facing on this red wire, and it seemed to help a bit, but I'm not really sure. I think it first off needs to be more centered. And then, I don't know if that's the motor or if that's just from me hitting it. It looks like it's the motor going, doesn't it? Not sure. Okay, look at it now. I took apart the coil, recoiled it, and sanded it again. And I made sure very carefully that only the top half of the coil was sanded, not the bottom. Because it says on how the motor works, it says the coil is an electromagnet, and it happens when the sanded side of each lead is in contact with the paper clips. So I thought maybe because both sides were a little bit sanded, that was the problem, but I'm not sure if that was the problem. But I re-sanded them very carefully, and now look at that baby spin. Okay, so how the motor works also says that when the enamel side of each lead is pressed against the paper clips, the coil is not an electromagnet. And it says that this is how the on again, off again of the coil creates motion. When the coil is an electromagnet, it turns to line up with the bar magnet, and the motion begins. Just as this happens, the enameled halves of the leads touch the paper clips. The electricity stops flowing through the coil. The electromagnet is off, but the coil is moving, and it keeps on moving long enough for the cycle to repeat. Okay, so I think it's cool that I made this, but I don't really know what to do with it. So I'm gonna look in the book a bit further and see what's next. This is the inventions book that I use. It's by Science Whiz, Penny Norman, and it comes with all of the tools that I showed you. And it's got a bunch of different activities in it. But I still want to know what you guys think of, now that I've made this motor, like, what do I do with it? And I don't really know if I learned something from it. I mean, because it says like the coil's electromagnet and that's what makes it spin, but I still don't really know what that means.